Writing. At 2:17 on a bright Tuesday afternoon, the most powerful woman in the building was on her knees in the middle of a glass and marble lobby, watching her 8-year-old son tremble as if the entire world had become too loud to survive. Executives stood frozen around them. Security guards waited for orders. A pediatric specialist had already failed to reach him, and the sales assistant was frantically calling another therapist. Then the boy suddenly covered his ears, cried without words, and curled against the cold floor. His mother, billionaire CEO Celeste Veyron, looked around desperately and promised anyone who could calm her son a reward of $750,000. Nobody moved. Nobody except the man pushing a yellow cleaning cart slowly through the lobby. If you believe kindness can reach places money never can, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Heartland Stories. Because sometimes the person everyone overlooks is the one carrying the answer everyone else has been searching for. Celeste had built Veyron Dynamics from a small technology company into one of the most respected firms in the country, and that afternoon she was supposed to deliver the most important presentation of her career. Investors from 3 continents had gathered on the top floor. Cameras waited. The board was ready. A $750 million expansion was on the line. But none of that mattered when her son, Kieran, became overwhelmed by the noise of the lobby. Kieran had never spoken a single word in his life. He communicated through gestures, drawings, expressions, and a small notebook filled with pictures. Celeste loved him fiercely, but she had spent years quietly believing that if she worked hard enough, hired the best specialists, and surrounded him with everything money could buy, she could somehow protect him from every painful thing in the world. That belief was breaking apart on the floor beneath her. The lobby had become unusually crowded that afternoon. Phones were ringing, heels struck the marble, elevators opened and closed, and somewhere nearby a maintenance alarm chirped repeatedly. For Kieran, every sound seemed to arrive at once. He pressed his hands against his ears and rocked back and forth. Celeste tried everything she knew. She showed him his favorite blue card. She offered his headphones. She knelt beside him and held out her hand. Nothing worked. A specialist whispered that they might need to move him somewhere quieter, but every attempt to approach only made Kieran more frightened. Then Celeste made the desperate offer. She promised $750,000 to the person who could calm him and help him feel safe enough to stand. The words shocked everyone. Employees stared at one another, but the number meant nothing to Kieran. He didn't need money. He needed someone who understood what his frightened eyes were saying. Across the lobby, a black janitor named Omari Bell stopped pushing his cart. Omari was 52 years old and had worked in the building for nearly 11 years. Most executives knew him only as the man who emptied their trash bins before sunrise. They rarely noticed that he arrived before everyone else and left after almost everyone. They didn't know that he had raised his younger sister after their mother died, or that he had once dreamed of becoming a school counselor before life forced him down another road. They didn't know that every morning, before cleaning the lobby, Omari sat quietly for 5 minutes near the windows and watched the sunlight move across the floor. He looked at Kieran, not at Celeste. Then he did something nobody expected. He put down his cleaning cloth, slowly lowered himself to the marble several feet away from the boy, and simply sat there. He didn't reach for Kieran. He didn't ask questions. He didn't make exaggerated gestures. He didn't tell the child to stop crying. He just sat quietly, breathing slowly, letting the silence grow around him. Celeste watched in confusion. The executives watched in disbelief. Omari waited until Kieran's eyes finally shifted toward him. Then Omari leaned forward just enough for his voice to reach the boy and whispered one word. Safe. Kieran stopped rocking. The lobby seemed to hold its breath. Omari whispered it again, softer this time. Safe. The boy slowly lowered one hand from his ear. His eyes remained fixed on Omari. For the first time in nearly 20 minutes, his breathing began to slow. Omari placed one hand flat against his own chest and took a long, exaggerated breath. Kieran watched. Then, almost imperceptibly, he copied him. Celeste covered her mouth. The child who had rejected every professional, every instruction, every expensive technique, was breathing beside a janitor who had never asked for anything. A few moments later, Kieran crawled closer and sat beside Omari. Nobody spoke. Celeste's eyes filled with tears as she realized something painful. She had spent years trying to solve her son like a problem. Omari had treated him like a person. After Kieran was calm, Celeste thanked Omari and offered him the $750,000. He politely refused. She insisted. He refused again. Finally, Omari explained that he hadn't done anything special. He had simply noticed that the boy was afraid. That sentence stayed with Celeste. The next morning, she postponed the investor meeting and returned to the lobby with Kieran. She found Omari cleaning the windows in the afternoon sunlight. Instead of walking past him, she sat beside him. For the first time in years, Celeste allowed herself to admit that her son didn't need a mother who could control everything. He needed a mother willing to understand the world from his side. She changed the company's policies. Quiet rooms were added to every major office. Employees received training on communicating with people who were nonverbal or overwhelmed. And Omari was offered a new position, not because of charity, but because Celeste finally recognized the wisdom he had been carrying unnoticed for years. Months later, Kieran still didn't speak. But one afternoon, while Omari was preparing to leave, Kieran opened his little notebook and drew a picture. It showed two people sitting beside a large yellow sun. Beneath them was one carefully written word his mother had helped him learn to spell. Safe. Omari stared at the drawing for a long moment, then smiled. Celeste stood behind them with tears running down her cheeks. She finally understood that the greatest gift her money could never purchase was not a cure, a contract, or a miracle. It was the moment someone stopped trying to change her son and simply made him feel understood. If this story touched your heart, please engage with this video, like it, share it with someone who believes kindness still matters, and leave a comment so this message can reach another person who may need it today. And before you leave, make one special request: your commitment. Promise that the next time you see someone struggling, you will look beyond their appearance, position, or silence and choose kindness before judgment. Because Omari never received the $750,000. He received something far more valuable. For one frightened little boy, he became the first person who made the world feel safe.